Hello, everybody. You're not going to believe this video right here. Bernie Sanders, who ran for president in 2016 and in 2020 and looked to be almost the presumptive nominee in 2020, literally confesses on the Theo Von podcast about how he was pushed out, literally giving away the blueprint for the Democrat establishment power elite and how things are really happen in his own party. I don't even know if he even realized that he confessed this, but this is monumental. This is one of the biggest confessions I've ever seen. Literally, everything that we've all known, everything that we've confirmed, he confesses it live on this show. So I can't actually share the actual video clip, but you can watch it if you want to, or go to the Theo Von podcast. But I'm just going to tell you and break it down for you right here. So essentially, Bernie Sanders says, I ran in 2016, I ran in 2020, and this is what happens, quote, when you take on the establishment. Again, and then Theo Von asks, what do you mean by this establishment? How does it work? Is it a phone call? Like, what happens? So Bernie says, I ran in 2016, I ran in 2020. We won 3 primaries in a row, which he did. And then Theo Von then says, yeah, I felt like you kind of got a bad, you didn't get a fair shake. I didn't think you were treated fairly. And he says, I wasn't. Then he goes on to say that this is what happens when you take on the establishment. Who is this establishment? Well, we know who it is. We've been talking about this on this channel for a very, very long time. We know exactly who the establishment is. So he goes on to say, quote, what happened is we won the first 3 primaries, and then the establishment got very, very nervous. And they said, hey, it would be a good idea if you dropped out. And what happened? They got behind Biden. It wasn't like a phone call or anything. It wasn't like they called, and it wasn't like, some genie in the hat, a.k.a. Obama, said, hey, Bernie, you got to go. What happened is they galvanized the delegates. They got all the support around Biden, and they basically pushed him out. And he says, so if you're asking me, are we a democracy? In one sense, we are. I use the term oligarchy. An oligarchy is a society where a small number of very wealthy people control the economic and political life of the country. I think we're moving rapidly in that direction. He says all these people came by and supported Biden. That's what happened. So it's extremely interesting. This is a major, major confession by Bernie Sanders. And he essentially says, if you've got the money to run, because Theo Von then goes, hey, do you still think that we have a democratic process? He says, yes and no. He says, you might be really exceptional and I might be a complete idiot. And who knows, you might win once in a while. But essentially, the money people are always going to win. And he talks about how all these lobbyists and Washington, and he really I've never seen Bernie this candid, and he literally exposes all of them. And it's just remarkable, his transparency, his honesty. I don't think I've ever heard a radical progressive talk about this in such an open air fashion, open door fashion. And then what Theo goes on to say is, he says, it almost seems like this is like a privatized communism. And then Bernie goes on to say, yeah, yes, I agree. That's a very, very interesting point. Here's where I have a very, very serious problem with this. So he goes on to say that that Theo makes a great point about privatized communism. Then why are you endorsing the very same people who pushed you out? It's almost like that kind of Dr. Martin Luther King quote where he says, to be silent when you know something is wrong is a bigger sin than actually doing the wrong. That the fact that you're actually endorsing these people who have executed the almost unbelievable in-your-face coup against the sitting president, the fact that you're endorsing the very same heathens, the hypocrites who pushed you out, is to me just baffling. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it one bit. When you put what Bernie Sanders says in context, specifically the context of what Kamala and the establishment did to Biden. Remember, Biden is a guy who literally has been in public office, in public service for over 50 years. This was the guy who committed the technical lynching of Chief Justice Clarence Thomas back in the 80s, who was appointed by Reagan. This was also a guy who ran for office many, many times. Biden ran for office many times, and he was doing so poorly. The people thought he was so bad. He lied about his record. He lied about his education. He lied about so much. He was found out, and they threw him aside. I mean, if it wasn't for Obama picking him as his vice president, there would be no Joe Biden today. We won't even know who he is. So here you have a guy who has lusted for power, which is completely manifested in his wife, Dr. Jill. And then you mean to tell me he just kind of steps aside and says, okay, sure, no big deal. And he actually beat Trump before. And with all intents and purposes, even though he's destroyed America, destroyed our economy, destroyed our border, and so many other things, he had a pretty good shot at beating him again. And he just, quote unquote, as they put it, as Kamala puts it, steps aside. When you put what Bernie Sanders says in that context, it makes what happened to Biden seem all the more, first of all the more believable and understandable, but just unbelievably egregious, especially when you put into context George Clooney's op-ed piece, the huge fundraiser, Obama, Clinton, Clooney, the Hollywood moguls, all the big mega donors, everything that Bernie Sanders said right here. I don't even know if he meant to confess this. They essentially pushed him out of the election. He was going to win 2020, the primary. He won the first 3 big primaries. And then that New York Times article came out. But then what happened to Biden too? These people, if you really, really embrace and collapse yourself into the truth of Bernie's words, this is an exact rebuke to our democratic process. They don't care about the voters. They don't care about we the people. They don't care about freedom of choice. They don't care about an actual democratic process where we elect. This is a government that is supposed to be run by the people, for the people, of the people. They could give a rat's ass about that. They have circumvented this. They have bypassed this time and time again. Yet we keep hearing that they are the party of putting democracy on the ballot. That's why I called them the Hippocrats. These are the Hippocrats. They don't give a rat's ass about you. They don't give a rat's ass about me. They only care about one thing: power. 2 things: power and the retention of that power. I'm really curious. Let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on what Bernie just said? What he just literally confessed live on a podcast? And what do you think of what I just said, putting that into context of literally the first coup of my lifetime of a sitting president executed by Obama, Clinton, Pelosi, Schumer, and Kamala, and everything related to this establishment? I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below, please. I mean, his transparency, his honesty, his candor, I thought was pretty interesting, especially what he said regarding the establishment, how they operate. I mean, that's almost like getting a sort of fly on the wall inner workings of the establishment, the Hippocrat operational infrastructure, if you will. And it's mind-blowing to me. But I want to throw this off to you guys. What do you think about everything? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you made it this far, don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter. That's in the pinned comment, show notes, and description down below. It's literally free. All you got to do is just click on that link. Click on the option that says free newsletter. You put in your best email and bada boom, bada bing, you're in. You'll never miss out. You'll always be in the know what's happening in our country, around the world, that everything that the fake news media, woke mafia media won't share with you. You know your boy Nez, who does his own due diligence, qualitative and quantitative research, will. Check out these videos coming up on the screen over here. Subscribe and follow down below. And as always, may God bless you and may God bless America. I'll see you soon.